What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Destiny of X era of X-Men comics, where we actually do pick up with X-Men number 12. Now, this is actually the last book we're going to cover for the main X-Men series for the time being, because right after this, it jumps into Judgment Day. And of course, we are going to try our best to cover that storyline on this channel. Yes, I know it came out last year and most people already cover it, but I have not, and I want to on my channel. Either way, right now, when it comes to X-Men number 12, this is actually part 2 to the last storyline we did, where Cyclops found out that Dr. Stasis is actually Mr. Sinister, and that right there was actually very huge. But the thing is, this is clearly a different version of Dr. Stasis, and the question is right now, who is the real one? Who is the real Mr. Sinister? The one on Krakoa, or the one right here right now saying that he is Dr. Stasis and wants to get rid of the mutant race? And so getting into today's storyline, we actually do pick back up where our last video left off at, where it's Cyclops right now fighting against Dr. Stasis, but just found out that Dr. Stasis is actually Mr. Sinister. Now, here's the thing though, because you have Cyclops believe that this must be a clone of the original Mr. Sinister, which honestly makes a whole lot of sense. And the reason why I'm saying that, because remember, when it comes to Mr. Sinister, he plays around with mutants' DNA. And so, of course, it would make sense that technically right now, he would have clones out there left and right. And matter of fact, in earlier X-Men books that led up to Destiny of X, technically we saw Sinister working on different clones of himself. Matter of fact, Homeboy already made different clones of himself. But here's the big thing though, because when it comes to Dr. Stasis, he says, no, I am not a clone. I am the original Nathaniel Essex. And that right there is kind of like, wait a second. This man truly believes that he is the original Mr. Sinister. That is actually very huge. Now, of course, the battle does end because you do have Dr. Stasis being able to actually blow up part of the base to make sure he's able to get away from Cyclops and also Sync. But we also have to remember that Dr. Stasis, aka Mr. Sinister, wants to get rid of mutants, and that right there is very huge, because remember, when it comes to Mr. Sinister in X-Men comics, it was technically retconned that he was a mutant, but this version of him right now saying, I'm not a mutant, I'm not a clone, I am the original, is kind of like, wait a second, what in the world is truly going on here? Now, this could technically build off of what we saw in Immortal X-Men number 1 and number 2, but not getting that right now. Either way, you have Dr. Stasis being able to actually get away, and this of course does tick off Cyclops and Sync, but at the same time now, they know who Dr. Stasis actually is. But then we actually see Dr. Stasis go back to his house, but he makes sure his house is also burned down as well, to make sure that technically there's no way anyone could find any kind of evidence about him and what he is trying to do, especially the X-Men. Now, right before he leaves though, we do see him technically pick up a picture. Now, when it comes to this picture, apparently it's him right now caring for someone, and apparently something happened to the boy that he cares so much for, but we have no idea what happened to the boy. Either way, he does take the picture as his house burns down completely. But then we have to jump back over to Game World. Now remember, Game World is technically this area in space, where a spaceship in space, where technically you are able to gamble on different kinds of situations that are happening right now across the universe. And most times those situations are where a planet is about to get wiped out in some kind of way. And the question is, will the people of that planet actually survive, or will they die? Now, the reason why we're jumping over to game world is because when it came to the earlier books of this X-Men series, Earth was being attacked left and right by different things game world was actually sending out, because you had a lot of people take bets on Earth and wonder if the people of Earth could actually survive the different things they were throwing that came from game world. Now here's the thing though, because when it comes to game world, it's technically right now being controlled by a guy known as Cordyceps Jones. Now Cordyceps Jones is actually a fungi that came to life and right now technically using a dead body as a way to kind of move around game world. Now in the last video we did, we had a 4-team X-Men, a 4-person team. Oh my god, had a hard time saying that. We had a 4-person team of the X-Men actually go to game world to hopefully stop Cordyceps Jones. Now that was Jean Grey, Rogue, Polaris, and Wolverine. Now of course they had a master plan, but we were left to believe that the master plan technically fell apart, because in our last video Wolverine was technically taken over by Cordyceps Jones, and so was Polaris as well. But we kind of find out that was a fat lie, that technically Wolverine was taken over by Cordyceps Jones, because again, he's able to release fungi into other people's bodies as a way to control them. And matter of fact, in this book right here, we kind of find out that people in game world, they're all being controlled by him. So technically the only reason why he's in charge of game world is because thanks to him having the ability to spread his fungi into other people's bodies, he's able to control them and make them do things he wants them to do. But getting back to the battle between him and the X-Men, we kind of find out that even though he believes that technically right now he has control over Polaris and also Wolverine, in reality he doesn't. That Jean Grey is technically playing mind games with him. And technically this wraps up everything when it comes to game world. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to Cordyceps Jones, when he realized that technically Jean Grey was playing mind games with him, that technically he was actually losing the battle, you do have our heroes being able to actually defeat Cordyceps Jones, but to also free all the people in game world that was technically being controlled by him thanks to his fungi in their body. Which honestly, that's kind of nasty. Like, a piece of him, a nasty gross piece of him is inside your body, but with that piece inside your body, he has the ability to actually control you. That right there just sounds nasty and sick. But either way, the X-Men were able to finally deal with him and to also save the Earth once again. But at the same time now, with them being able to free all the people in game world, they are technically at the moment making new allies as well. But then we actually jump over to Cyclops and Synch right now meeting up with Ben Urich. Now, Ben Urich is an old character in Marvel Comics. This dude's been around for a very long time. But when it comes to Ben Urich, he's an A+ reporter. This man will get the story and the world will be told the story that he has. Like, he will not stop unless someone actually does stop him in some kind of crazy way. And matter of fact, when it comes to Synch, that what happened, because when it came to Ben Urich, he basically found out the X-Men had a way to bring people back to life. Because remember, when it comes to the X-Men, they have the ability to bring you back to life by making you a new clone body. Thanks to the five mutants who have the ability to make you a new clone body and then download your memories into that new clone body. But with that being said, it was a huge secret in the mutant nation. And the reason why, because that is a mutant thing. Not a human thing, a mutant thing. It can only be used for mutants, and that is it. And so right now, the rest of the world, they have no idea about that. Now, here's the thing, because in earlier books, Dr. Stasis told Ben Urich about that process, to basically have Ben Urich tell the world what the mutants are actually doing. But the thing is though, right before he was able to publish that story, Synch came in with the powers of Jean Grey and basically wiped the mind of Ben Urich. But this is Cyclops right now saying, we cannot do that. We are supposed to stand with the idea of truth. We are supposed to be the symbol of truth. We cannot do that if we're going around right now wiping folks' minds to protect us. If he found out, he has the right to tell the story. And so technically right now, it's Synch giving back the memories that Ben Urich had lost thanks to Sync. And so now Ben remembers everything about the idea of what the mutant race had basically done. They found a way to resurrect people. And this is Ben right now about to tell the entire world what he had just learned. But then we jump back over to Dr. Stasis. Now, when we do, it's technically him right now going back to Phobos, the moon of Mars. Because remember, right after Araco, the second mutant nation was moved to Mars, of course, you then had companies like Urich feel like the mutants are getting a tad bit too strong. And so what they did was they put a base on the moon of Mars as a way for them to watch Araco and to hopefully learn more secrets about the mutant race to one day bring them down. But the reason why Dr. Stasis is here right now, because remember, he joined this group to help Urich find a way to finally get rid of the mutant race. And so right now we do see some other characters. But here's the thing. Dr. Stasis' goal was to use Ben Urich as a way to have the humans hate on the mutants even more, because the idea of resurrection. How dare the mutant race keep that kind of process to themselves? That's not fair. But technically right now, when it came to Ben Urich, when he wrote that story, he wrote it in a way where technically he put the X-Men in the mutant race in a good lighting, not in bad lighting. And so right now it's Dr. Stasis saying we have to find another way to technically ruin them. But when we do, it's going to bring down the entire mutant race. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.